We are in crisis. No matter who you talk to or where you go, almost everyone understands that we're in crisis, as individuals, as communities, as countries, and as people on this planet. We have never been more lonely or more socially isolated. We sit in our cars to sit in an office to return to sit on our couch. When researchers ask, can people be generally trusted? We, in record numbers, are answering no. We're plagued by economic insecurity and skyrocketing rates of inequality. More and more of our neighborhoods look like either gated communities or ghettos. In Canada, income inequality is at the highest level ever recorded, as wealth becomes increasingly concentrated in fewer and fewer hands. If that wasn't bad enough, we are more insecure and more politically polarized than at any point in recent history. Rising global threats are compounded by our inability to come together as a people. And everyone feels it in their own lives, as the way we talk about one another is no longer one of respectful disagreement, but one of hate, enemies, and violence. Now, while all of this is happening, cities and local communities have to figure out how to survive, how to set themselves apart, and what's going to be their competitive advantage in the fight for the investment and labor force of tomorrow. Now, the good news is that all of these issues are related, and we can take a step forward in addressing them by designing for community. Designing for community is going to be the defining competitive advantage for most cities. A few super cities, those giant metropolitan areas, have a magnetic pull all of their own. But for the vast majority of those small and medium-sized cities that are outside of their orbit, designing for community is the only sustainable path forward. Now, to explain what I mean, we have to take a step back and understand a few powerful insights. The first is social capital. Social capital is the third pillar of economic growth, along with human and physical capital. Physical capital refers to the tangible things like tools and factories. So a farmer with a tractor is far more productive than a farmer with a shovel. Human capital refers to the education and skills. So someone who's illiterate is far less productive than someone with an engineering degree. Now, social capital is the last missing piece. It refers to the connections and relationships between people. It's why a single solitary person, all on their own, has almost never accomplished anything. We need a wide diversity of skills, relationships, and norms if we're going to build, create, and grow. It's why who you know is often as important as what you know. It's why cities tend to grow faster than rural areas, and it's why industries tend to grow in clusters and not randomly spread across the globe. So think of social capital as social glue. If people don't trust each other, if they have no relationships, no connections, or no friends or acquaintances in common, then they're far less likely to collaborate, to share ideas, to sell to one another, or to start a business. High levels of social capital are directly linked to faster rates of economic growth, political stability, less crime, higher rates of mental health, higher rates of voting, and less corruption, just to name a few. Now, the second major idea is the strength of weak ties. This idea aligns with our basic understanding of social capital, but puts an interesting twist on it. In a powerful piece of research by sociologist Mark Granover, he looked at whether a person's strong ties are more important than their weak ones. Now, strong ties refers to your family and close friends, those you see regularly and have very strong bonds with, while weak ties refers to people that you know more casually or have looser connections to, acquaintances, friends of friends, neighbors, or maybe people who work at the same company. Now, the research shows that the strength of your strong ties to family and close friends is actually not as important to your success. It's the strength of your weak ties that matter in terms of getting a job, a promotion, and having a rich social life. It's your loose acquaintances, the people that know a little bit about you, that are most critical to your success. And that's because if you have close relationships with family and friends, but know few people outside of your immediate circle, then your world is small. You don't get exposed to a lot of new ideas, new people, new things, or new connections. Alternatively, if you're regularly making new friends, getting introduced to different kinds of people, and coming into contact with ideas and ways of doing things that are different, then you're much more likely to not only get that promotion, but to be exposed to new career opportunities, have a stronger feeling of community and belonging, and have more people that are connected to you that are looking out for you in small ways. Now, the third major concept comes from Jane Jacobs. She was a pioneer in thinking about urban problems and how to design cities for success. The key takeaways from her and her disciples is that we made some foundational mistakes in urban planning that led to fundamentally antisocial and dysfunctional cities. That post-war suburban ideal that makes hard separations between residential and commercial areas, that concentrates on roads and cars as the main form of transportation, has made us less safe, less connected, more lonely, and harder for small and local businesses to survive. So, for example, at the Microscale, we build houses so that the garage and the driveway are the main features facing the street. There's no natural or easy way to spend time outside interacting with your neighbors or meeting people as they walk by. This design favors isolation and the seclusion of your private backyard and interior spaces over the public space. At a larger scale, we've suburbanized our cities. We put big distances between our homes and where we shop and banished small businesses from residential areas. We focused on drivable strip malls and big box stores and sprawled over endless miles of concrete. Good parking became more important than good neighbors, and we lost touch with the business owners who serve us. We don't walk to the store or bump into people on the street. Instead, we drive to Walmart and pay low prices but suffer high social costs. We have larger homes, but our children aren't safe in our neighborhoods because we don't know our neighbors, cars pose a constant threat, and kids have no practice skills of walking to the store or interacting with local business owners who know them. Now, knowing all this, cities have a few distinct choices to make. They have to ask themselves, what factors can I control that will directly affect my competitive advantage? How can I attract the workforce of tomorrow and retain them long term? Now, while red tape and taxes matter, I've never known anyone to choose what city to live in based on the municipal tax rate or how hard it is to get a building permit. Right? A focus on tape and taxes is not a strategy. Now, small and medium-sized cities can't compete with the super cities when it comes to economic opportunity. There's just no way Thunder Bay is going to outcompete Toronto when it comes to opportunity and compensation for talented individuals. But what we can do is we can design for community. We can sell a richer life instead of the highest paycheck. We can make intentional and strategic choices about how we spend, how we zone, what form of development we encourage, and how we can focus on building for community. We can focus on building social capital. We can create more weak ties. We can rebuild neighborhood life and have a strategic focus on building for community. Because when we look at what a rich life entails, it almost always comes back to community. It's the larger social fabric. It's knowing your neighbors. It's shopping at local businesses. It's meeting friends at the library, right? It's knowing your barista, having coworkers help you move, bumping into friends at the grocery store, and seeing regulars at the park. It's a life rich in social capital. It's plentiful weak ties. It's walkable streets and interesting mixed-use neighborhoods. And it's a feeling of solidarity where there's no vast gulf between rich and poor, but where we're all doing well. It's the complex, organic, and almost indescribable feeling of belonging. Now, that answer is ultimately obvious when you talk to people who actively decide to move to smaller cities. Right? Ask an international student who stayed. Ask a local who moved back home. Talk to people who aren't born there, but choose to make that city that home, and the answer is almost always the same. They came and they stayed for community. Now, creating community is hard. It's much harder than the tape and taxes approach. But thankfully, there are great guides to how municipalities and community groups can do the work. To build strong communities that are socially vibrant and resilient, we need to focus on a few key things. The first is designing walkable, diverse spaces. Right? As Jane Jacobs recommends, we need places where people can interact easily and frequently in safe and connected environments. We need to invest in incremental, locally oriented development. As the strong town literature talks about, we need to ensure long-term financial and social stability. And we need to foster trust and engagement, the way social capital theory emphasizes. We need to create opportunities for people to connect, contribute to their communities, and engage in collective action. Now, concrete examples abound for how to achieve these goals. These include investing in libraries and public parks, right? True public spaces that are free and without barriers. We need to create spaces for clubs, volunteer groups, and neighborhood associations to meet. We need to mandate spaces for small business in residential areas, allowing cafes, small retail, and even modest-sized offices to become part of neighborhoods. We need to embrace modest density. We need to allow mid-rise buildings in the entire urban environment. And it's designing for public transit and active transportation and de-emphasizing cars and parking. Ultimately, it's local, incremental growth and not planning for the next mega project. We need to focus on small, neighborhood-scale revitalization, in investing in resilient and multi-purpose infrastructure like public market spaces, supporting businesses that act as community hubs, and investing in street festivals and pedestrian markets. It's not courting national retailers or international manufacturers hoping that they'll save your town and your tax base. It's about investing in ourselves, in local business, and in homegrown entrepreneurs to bank on resilient, community-oriented growth. And it's also about how we house. We need to think about setting up locally oriented community land trusts and creating and financing diverse, nonprofit, affordable housing. We need to actively reshape housing from a pure financial product into homes for those who need them. Now, the wonderful thing you can see about building for a community is that in doing so, we actually build the foundations for long-term economic growth. By building for community, we engineer social capital. Piece by piece, we build weak ties. We build the networks and the connections that generate new businesses, that create powerful supplier relationships, that form innovative clusters that power resilient and sustainable community-based growth. We don't move forward with our hand out, hoping that someone else from the outside will save us. We don't seek to shortchange residents with handouts to multinational corporations who are ready to leave the second cheaper land or labor becomes available somewhere else. We do it ourselves. We invest in our people. We build strong communities that will attract the best and the brightest who want to live rich lives and who companies will chase. We and those like us will open local businesses to fuel future cycles of true growth and shared prosperity. Thank you.